Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully all of you are doing well out there. I'm, of course, your host, World Blitz, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a very highly requested item on the World of Tanks Blitz site, which would be ranking the Tier 10, Tier 9, Tier 8 vehicles in the game. Well, as you can see here, we've got a whole list of all the Tier 10 vehicles. So we're going to be ranking them in categories of broken, super strong, good performer, average, workable, don't bother, and just why would you get it? So hopefully you enjoy today's video. Now, of course, one thing I always like to mention when I do opinionated videos, because of course I'm putting my personal opinion on these tanks rankings. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, if you agree or you disagree with some of my opinions, because of course these are all opinionated options here. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But without further ado, let's get straight into it and start off with the AMX 30B. And as well, if you enjoyed today's video, I always forget to say this, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. So the 30B is one of the worst tier 10s in my personal opinion, just for how it performs statistically. And as well, it's got worse DPM than your average tier 10 medium. The average medium is sitting at around, I would say 20, or not 20, I would say about 3,000 to 3,400 DPM. The AMX 30B at 2,800 if you're running calibrated, yeah, that's not great. So we're going to be putting this tank in workable. I don't think it's bad. And I don't find it's not a bad tank, but it's definitely one that needs a little bit of love. And it needs more DPM, I think. The gun's decently accurate, 0.308 dispersion. It's got good gun depression, great mobility, 65 kilometers per hour. It's workable. I can do very well in it. But at the same time, where it used to be a very strong tank, maybe good performer 2 years ago, DPM has definitely gotten the best of it. And yeah, it's not necessarily the best tank anymore. Next up, we have the AMX 50B. Now, not only does this vehicle have 3,000 damage per minute, very good top speed, 50 kilometers per hour, fantastic standard penetration, aiming time, it's got great premium pen. Honestly, the 50B goes in super strong. It is such a good vehicle, and while it does require a lot of skill to play, it's definitely a very good tank. Now, the AMX M4 is a vehicle that I would also put in super strong. It's not a broken vehicle. It was in testing, but I put it in super strong because it's got great hull-down capabilities. In fact, if we go take a look at it on Armor Spectre, you can see just how ridiculously strong the AMX M4's hull-down capabilities are. But the reason I don't put it in overpowered anymore is because while it is very good hull-down, the issue is, first of all, you can see an IS-4 just using heat can easily go right through the upper plate. If you're running Cali, like, yeah, everything is a pen. The side of the turret, it's very weak with the cupolas, so I rate it good, but I'm using it in tournament quite a bit, and it's not necessarily the best tank. It's just a good all-rounder for a hull-down, mobile, good alpha tank. I do find it extremely strong, but not in the broken category. Let's make our way back over to the listings. So, yeah, I'm going to put it in super strong. It does have a very nice aiming time, though. Only 0.344 dispersion. Next up, we have the Badger. Now, this is a tank that I put in just, wow. This is a vehicle that it could be workable. Like, there are certain situations where it is workable, but as many of you know, I've made 2 or 3 videos now on the Badger saying it's just not worth it. And the big issue with it is that it's slow. It has bad aiming time. It's got good DPM. Like, it's 3,450 DPM, but compared to like a Grille 15, why go for a tank or like the 263? It just doesn't have anything going for it. On PC, this tank has got 4,400 DPM if you're running all the vents, aiming time, and everything like that. Doesn't have that in Blitz. It's got way better dispersion on PC, better on movement aiming time. It's just such a better tank. Statistically, where this vehicle in Blitz, while it does have a little bit of things going for it, for me personally, I can't ever find myself going for the Badger. And a perfect example of this is, again, we talked about how the AMX M4 is very strong hull down. Well, you look at a Badger hull down, it's decent. Like, it is very good hull armor, but it just falls apart so quickly. If we go up to the Badger, the Badger, you'll see that. Oh, yeah, there you go. That is the Badger hull down. It's really not that strong. Like, it's good, but it can be penned by an IS-4 with premium shells. And when you pull out tank destroyers, it just falls apart so quickly. You'll see here. We load in that heat, and yeah, that's not good. It easily gets penned, and if you're not hull down, which half the time you can't use all your gun depression, it just becomes such an easy penetration. So that's one of the big issues I have with the Badger, is either buff the DPM or buff the mobility, or just something on it. I would be very happy if they buffed anything, but currently definitely struggling quite a bit. So let's go back onto the tier listing. Next, we have the Batchat 25T. Now, the Batchat would have been in, I would have said average before they buffed it, but now, because it's actually quite good, I would put it in good performer. It's not the strongest of vehicles, but it can do a very good job. It's got good DPM, just about 3,000 damage per minute now. It's got a quick intro clip. It's able to get out all of the shells in about 4.8 seconds, 4.6 seconds. Not too bad there. It's got good accuracy. The best best mobility at tier 10. So Batchat, very good tank. I would put it in super strong, but tanks like the Sheridan kind of balance it out. So I put that one in good performer. Another one I'll put in good performer is the Chieftain Mk. I would have put it in super strong when it came into the game. In fact, maybe even overpowered. But after the tank has been in the game for quite some time, as we all know, power creep has set in massively. And the Chieftain Mk, where it used to have very good hull down capabilities, it's still strong hull down, but as we all know, IS-4s, Mouses, E100s can just kind of penetrate right through the turret if you know where to penetrate it. In fact, a perfect example of this, not a lot of people actually know this weak spot, so if you don't, this is one thing you definitely probably want to try out a lot. But you can see here that, well, that's a 268. Let's pull out like an IS-4 and you'll see a good example, but this thing's actually quite easy to penetrate in the turret. I didn't realize this personally until I started running it, but you'll see here that you can easily penetrate just right on this part here if it's trying to be hauled down. You've got the weak spots over here. It's really not that hard of a vehicle to penetrate. Yeah, you got a lot of spots all around you can penetrate this vehicle. So the IS-4, it's a good tank, especially ripping through like a Chieftain Mk turret, but I'm just kind of sad that the Mk doesn't hold up at what it used to. Still a very strong tank though. It's got Hesh, 3,000 base damage per minute, good mobility, still a very, very strong contender. Now, one I do put in super strong is the WZ-121B. This vehicle, when it first came into the game, would have been an average. It was a decent tank, it had decent damage per minute, but it didn't have anything going for it. Well, Wargaming has not only buffed the damage per minute on the WZ-121B, they buffed the aiming time, they buffed the on-movement dispersion, and now it's actually a very strong tank. Not only does the WZ-121B have about 225 millimeters to 240 if you're angling the armor correctly on the upper plate, the turret is very, very tricky to pen through, way thicker than a T62A's turret. It's got great aiming time, great DPM, about 3,450 base damage per minute. Well, not base, but if you're running rammer. It's a very, very strong tank, and because of that, I do put it in super strong. It's one vehicle I find very underrated in the Blitz community, and I actually tell a lot of people that if they have a, if they wanted to get a tier 10 premium, that's one that to keep a lookout for if you wanted to get a tier 10 premium medium, although now we've got like the T22 medium coming for gold, so it's always back and forth. But I do find the 121B very fun and very, very workable. So next up we have the E100. Now the E100 is a very strong tank. In fact, I put that as well in super strong. The reason E100 is such a strong vehicle is not only does it have great alpha, 640, 960 HE damage, yeah, pretty dang deadly, but as well has 367 millimeters of heat pen if you're running calibrated, which rips through all armor. It's got decent aiming time for a 150 millimeter gun, and of course it's got 3,000 hit points. So it's just this big chonker that the best way to play an E100 is you just trade. Let's say like a 215B or an IS-4 sitting there. Well, what you do is even if you can't pen the IS-4 standard, you load the gold, you pen him for 560 or whatever your alpha is, and then he shoots you for 440. But if he's using heat, which most of them are, he'll hit you for 370. So you'll win that trade every single time, and that's where the E100 becomes a very, very strong tank, especially if people are trying to side scrape, just load an HE shell. One of the beautiful things about Blitz is that unlike PC, you don't have to wait to swap into HE, which makes the E100 a very, very strong contender. E50M, again, super strong tank. It's very, very good, and the reason for that being is not only is it got the ability to work hull down, it's got 8 degrees of gun depression, strong turret armor, not the most turret armor. Like if we take a look on the armor profile, you'll see it's not the strongest on the turret, and this is one thing that I always say about the E50M is you definitely got to be really, really cautious because, well, of course, an IS-4 shooting heat's going to pen through it, but you can see it's good, like it's 260. So if you're up against enemy medium tanks, let's say like a 62A or a 140, they're going to struggle to pen it. They're going to have to load premium. But if they load premium, you can see without Cali, it's tricky. You're going to have to, like, if you wiggle it back and forth, it can be a tricky penetration every now and then. But it's definitely, it's iffy. That's how I rate it. It's tricky to pen it because of the mantlet in the front. But as well, it's a very easy tank to pen if you just know where to shoot it. So yeah, but at the same time, upper plate, crazy thick. It's got the ability to side scrape, which as we know, not really mediums can do. A good example is 140. Yeah, it's got that really troll side armor, but can't really side scrape too well, where the E50M is just such a good tank at getting out those side scraping capabilities. So the E50M is great. Not only that, it goes 60 kilometers per hour. It's got a good gun, the same accuracy as the Leopard at 0.3 or 0.272. Very, very good tank. I absolutely love it. And it's probably what I would have to say the strongest tier 10 medium. Now, the quote strong does not mean the most overpowered tier 10 medium, not the best, but I put strongest as in it pretty much plays like a heavy tank with the capabilities of a medium. So that's why I put it as quote unquote strong. Now, the Foch 155, I put in good performer. It would have been super strong, and honestly, it would have been broken when it first came out with the 640 dual shot gun because it was actually cracked. It had 640 alpha, 960 on the HE, and it was able to rip into enemy armor. However, it's definitely taken a turn for the worse. The stock gun, or the original gun that I actually loved on the tank, was 640 alpha, made it a good vehicle because you had the ability to rush people. You know, let's say a T62A. Well, if it's 62A saw you rushing it with 640 alpha, what is it going to do? Well, most likely it's going to run away because I don't want to get hit for 640. So if I get shot once, I'm like, oh crap, I'm not going to be able to shoot this guy again. I'm going to back off. So if you're running away from a Foch, HE up the booty, yeah, 960 is going to hurt quite a bit. And that's what made the Foch so strong, was the HE capabilities, the ramming, the speed, and it doesn't have enough hit points to fight heavies anymore. And the alpha isn't high enough to really get away with a lot of aggressive pushes where mediums are just going to rip you apart now. The Foch is good, but I don't put it in super strong. So we got the 2 and 5B. Now the 2 and 5B I put in, I'm going to say average, because it is a good tank. Honestly, it's in between good performer and average. Now, the reason for this being is that, yeah, a Unicum or a Super Unicum could easily make a 2 and 5B a super strong tank. And that's true for any tank, though. Like, you could honestly make the Badger a super strong tank if you were a Super Unicum. So I'm basing this on the average player. And for me personally, I would say that the 2 and 5B is an average tank because it doesn't really have a lot of great side scraping capabilities. In fact, you can't side scrape at all in it. I've talked to a lot of good players. It just can't side scrape. And mostly the only role it's used for, if you're playing it, is a high DPM tank, where it's got, I will say, it's got a fantastic gun. And I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me in the comments, but for me personally, I just think it doesn't have good armor. It does have decent hull down capabilities, and it can be strong, but it's just not the best tank. It's kind of average in some areas. Next up, though, we got the 4005. Now, the 4005 I put in workable. Now, the reason for that being is because, while it is a good tank, in fact, it's great. It's got 3,000 DPM, actually more than 3,000, like 3,200. It's got a great gun. It's got a clip that's able to deal more damage than any other vehicle, even a 183 shooting Hesh in the game, at like 1,360 potential. But it's got one big issue, and that is the armor. It's got no armor, and as well, the camo's quite bad. And when you have those two things added on, if your team falls apart, that tank falls apart. So it's workable. You can win good games in it, but I don't put it in good performer because you have to rely on your team, and that doesn't make a tank a very good performer if you have to rely on your team. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. But that's how I kind of put it, is that, yeah, you can work really good situations in it, but very, very tricky to win. Now, the FE4202 I'm also going to put in workable. While I do perform very well personally in the tank, and it's one of my favorite tier 10s, it's only strong if you know how to use the Hesh, and second of all, if you're up against opponents that aren't Sheridans or vehicles that just rip through this thing's armor, because it doesn't have good turret armor. And when you're trying to go hull down against a T22 medium or something like that, yeah, good luck with your FE4202. So it's more based on luck sometimes with the 4202, going up against an incompetent enemy team, also having the idea of not being penned in the turret. It's a really tricky tank to run, and that's why I put it in workable. It can do well, but at the same time, you need to have kind of luck on your side. Now, the 183, yeah, just why? It's a decent tank if you pen your shells, but that's the thing, you have to pen your shells. Everybody that runs a 183 wants to get the Hesh out, and just like me, most of the times when you try and get your Hesh out, what's going to happen? Well, dunks into the spaced armor, or it doesn't penetrate, then you're losing DPM. Not only are you losing DPM, but because this thing has got the worst camo, believe it or not, worse than a mouse's camo, yeah, it gets spotted pretty much every time it tries to reposition, and every time it shoots. So what I do in the 183 is I play it semi-aggressive, and while it does occasionally work, I still probably can say I would have the lowest average win rate running a 183, honestly way worse than a Badger, just because it also relies on its team. It's got no camo, and it's always targeted. Awful, awful tank. I would put it in don't bother, because just don't bother getting it, but as well, just why would you get it? Now, the Grille. The Grille is another workable tank. I would put it in super strong, and it's the same example I have for the 4005, where the Grille is a very, very strong tank. It's got good DPM, in fact, fantastic DPM, 3,700. It's able to rip into enemy opponents, but it, again, has to rely on its team. You can carry a good game, but you don't see many Grilles out here pulling out 1 versus 3s, where you can do that in vehicles like the Progetto 65 or the IS-4 or the, there's a lot of tanks, mediums can do it. The Grille just doesn't have good camo. That's one of the big killers of it, and as well, it has no armor. So when you add those two things together, it just, like the 4005, needs to rely on its team to get spots, needs to rely on its team so it has cover, where, a vehicle like the T10E3, which we'll be making our way on to, doesn't really have that issue. That's why I put the Grille in workable, is it can work very well situations. In fact, the Grille has some of the highest and best recorded games reported, but it definitely falls short in a lot of areas. Now, the Ho-Ri, that boy, that one's going, honestly, into broken. Now, there's one reason why I'm putting the Ho-Ri into broken. It's not because the tank itself is a broken performer. The Ho-Ri it's a good tank, and I would rank it in super strong for performance-wise, but the reason I put it in broken is because of the premium AP shells that it has. And pretty much anybody that's played the tank realizes that, yeah, this tank's broken. The ability to penetrate a mouse's, an E100's upper plate, even when it's angling, even when it's hull down. The ability to penetrate, and just to show you how ridiculous the Ho-Ri's pen is, let's say we get out, what's a tank that's really, really tricky to penetrate? Let's say an IS-4's turret, because of course the IS-4 has got ridiculously thick turret armor. So we pull out our IS-4 here, and then let's go to tank destroyers. You can go pull out our Ho-Ri. So this is an IS-4 without, this is by the way an IS-4 just with the standard AP. Well, when you load the premium AP, you can literally penetrate an IS-4's turret. That's ridiculous. And there's no other vehicle in the game that can really do that. Like it makes armor not really a thing at all. If you take out, let's say, the AMX M4 or no, the perfect example is the Kronwagen. Now, the Kron is impenetrable to every single tank in the game apart from one vehicle, and that would be the Ho-Ri. If we go pull out the Kron, you will see that its turret is actually pennable by a Ho-Ri, even hull down. You can see just slightly pennable, but it is. Compare that to, let's get on any other tank destroyer. Let's say like an Object 268, even using heat, even with Kali, you can see not a chance at all, not any chance whatsoever. Ho-Ri can easily pen through it, and that's why I put the Ho-Ri as broken, is because it is the only vehicle in the game that makes armor irrelevant, and any good player running the tank, they'll just spam premium AP, ruining the vehicle, or not ruining the vehicle, but it just ruins the point of having armor. It just makes me question, why run a tank that has armor like an E100 or a mouse when I can go pull out a vehicle like the M60, the M48 Patton, or, the T22 medium that can get an occasional bounce, and as well has good DPM mobility. That's one of the big issues. I really wish Wargaming would nerf the premium pen on the Ho-Ri. That's why I put it in broken, but let me know what you guys think. I would normally put it in super strong, though. IS-4, I'm gonna put in... I'm honestly, it's close to broken, and the reason I'm gonna put it in super strong, I was close to putting it in broken, but the reason it goes into super strong is because it's just a very strong tank. That's the whole thing about it, is it doesn't have anything that necessarily makes the IS-4 broken. Any decent player going up against an average IS-4 player, you can shoot premium through it. You can shoot through the track wheels. There's weak spots on it. You can penetrate right through the frontal lower plate. It's not that hard to penetrate. In fact, if you look at an IS-4's base armor, if we go take a look on Armor Inspector here, you'll see it's really not that impressive. It's good, but, let's get like an average tier heavy tank E5 here. And E5, like, it's not that thick on the lower plate, only about 200 millimeters. Even angling, it's not that hard to penetrate. It's just that it's such a troll vehicle sometimes where you'll shoot at it, you'll shoot heat at it, and it'll hit that little edge here and it'll ricochet off. Or you'll be shooting at it and it'll hit this part, or, the edge. It's a really troll tank, and that's one thing that makes the IS-4 such a really ridiculous vehicle to pen, is sometimes it'll be angled like this. You'll be like, okay, I can pen that, but then it goes like this and it bounces. It's really troll to penetrate, but it's not really a broken tank, I find. It's just really, really good in many, many scenarios. So that's how I rank the IS-4. Super duper strong. What do we have next? IS-7, I put average. It's not great, but it's not bad. The IS-7 is an average performing vehicle, and that's kind of how it is on statistics. Just like the 2 and 5B, they perform average on win rate, they perform average on damage, and that's about it. Because the IS-7's got, well, it's got decent upper plate armor, decent turret armor, can be penned, but it's as well pretty dang strong. It's got good alpha, 460, great mobility for a heavy tank going 50 kilometers per hour, but at the same time comes with a bunch of issues, like the ability to have a weak ammo rack. Yeah, that one's quite bad. It's got a lot of issues here. So it's good. It can do well, but at the same time, there's a lot of better options. So I put it in average. Now, the Jagdpanzer, I'm going to put this one in good performer. The Jagdpanzer E100 has been buffed a lot of times. In fact, they've made it having very good dispersion. It's got good armor, just kind of like the E100. And the big thing going for it is massive alpha, 800 damage per shot, crazy penetration. And I would put the Jagdpanzer kind of in workable at the same time because, yeah, you got to rely on your team. But the difference that I find with the Jagdpanzer is that you can actually put it in a frontline position, which helps your team out. And I actually get a pretty solid win rate in the Jagdpanzer, maybe 70-ish%, 35, 36. 600 average damage. It's able to get out big shells, stops enemies from pushing on your team, and as well can go frontline, which is why I put the Jagdpanzer as a good performer. I wouldn't put it anywhere higher than that, and I was thinking about putting it in workable, but yeah, that's kind of how I'd put it. So yeah, we'll do it like that. So what do we have next? We've got the Leopard. Now the Leopard, I honestly put in super strong. It's kind of, if you could argue, workable, but at the same time, the Leopard not only has fantastic damage per minute, in fact, the highest DPM for a tier 10 medium, it also has great mobility, going 60 plus kilometers per hour. It's got the most accurate gun at tier 10. It's got great shell velocity, fantastic aiming time. It's got just so many good things going for it. And even though the Leopard can be absolutely just destroyed by Sheridans, Big Alpha, like the Jagdpanzer, the 183, just the ability to have mobility, the most accurate gun in the game, and as well a fantastic amount of DPM makes it extremely deadly. And any competent player in the Leopard can do a fantastic job. So that's why I put it in super duper strong. The Patton I'm going to put in, I'm going to put average. It's a good tank. It can go hull down, and it's got decent DPM, but that's just what it is. The American mediums I always put as kind of average because there's nothing you can name about the Patton that really makes it stand out to other mediums. Yeah, you could say it's great hull down, but so is the STB1. It really is the king of hull down. And if you want to say it's got decent DPM or decent accuracy, well, obviously the Leopard's got the accuracy. It doesn't have the most mobility. It goes 50. It's got decent armor, but if you wanted to talk about armor, you'd go pull out a T22 medium, or you go pull out, the STB again for hull down capabilities. So it's good, but it doesn't have any specified role in the battlefield. It's good at everything. So that's why I put it as average. The Patton's a good tank, but I will say that the M60 goes into good performer. The reason for that is it's got one more degree of gun depression, sitting at 10. It's got the same accuracy as the Patton, but a little bit better aiming time. It's got, I think, just a tad bit more DPM, if I'm not mistaken, and as well, it's got better armor, way better armor. They buffed the upper plate, the lower plate, and as well the turret armor, making the M60 a very strong vehicle. In fact, hull down, it's really, really good, kind of like an STB1. So M60 can be a very good tank. I don't put it in super strong because it still has a lot of weaknesses, and it's kind of just average, like the Patton, but it's got some advantages that make it in the good performer category, at least for me personally. Now, the mouse, I actually put that in super strong. The reason for that being is, as I was making the argument before about why run a tank with armor, well, the good thing about the mouse is that not only does it have armor, it also has hit points. It has 3,180 to be exact, which makes it very strong. You can push this thing pretty much, like I've made 2 or 3 videos now on the mouse talking about how it's just such a strong vehicle. You will literally see me drive the mouse straight down heavy lane or any lane, center lane, and I will take all of the shells from my team for them to farm off the enemy, and I'll even survive most of the time. There was the last mouse video I did a 7k 1 versus 3 or something like that. It's just such a ridiculous tank, and that's why I absolutely love it, is it has the ability to just tank an entire 183 3 times pretty much with average standard rolls and still be alive to fight on more in the battlefield. The mouse is a very good tank, super strong in my personal opinion, but of course you can't just run that tank and show your full side. So it's tricky, but I do find it very, very strong. Next we have the Object 140. Now the 140 I put in, honestly I put it in don't bother. It's a good tank, and I actually do like it. It's got good DPM, but that's really all you can say for it, because it does have decent armor that can bounce shells. But the point is that I'm doing a tier list on would you rather go for the Object 140 or the T62A. And for me personally, there's no point to get the Object 140 when you can get your hands on the 62A. I like the Object 140 more. It's got a more unique playstyle, but if you wanted to say it was better than the 62A, you'd be smoking something, because you do better in the 62. It's got pretty much the same DPM. It's got a more accurate gun. Its penetration is pretty much the same. It does carry a little bit less because it doesn't have the shell normalization the AP does, but it's got a more accurate gun, which of course makes up for it. As well, the 62A's got the big advantage, gun depression now, 7 degrees, and as well turret armor. So yeah, 62A pretty much puts me, yeah, I just put the 140. I would put it in workable, but just don't bother going for it. Have the advantage of the 62A. Next one we have is the Object 263. Now this tank, I'm going to put in workable. It's not great, but it can work. It's not even an average tank because it's such a weird vehicle. It's got good frontal armor, but at the same time, awful hull armor. The engine deck is very easily penetrated. And the biggest issue, which I'll show on Armored Spectre, is the mantlet. If Wargaming buffed the mantlet on the vehicle, I think it'd be good. Or they gave it 1 more degree of gun depression. Either would work. But the big issue you'll see here is that the 263, this is heat. Like, that's heat without Cali. You can see that mantlet is super easy to pen. And the reason it doesn't count as spaced armor is because, well, it does, but there's no armor behind it. So it's just like flat armor placed on a tank. So you just pen through this, and then you hit the hull, which pens and kills the crew. So yeah, 263, it's good. It's got the most DPM at tier 10, 3,800. But at the same time, this mantlet here, accompanied with the terrible gun depression, the weak armor, if you're face-hugging this thing, literally all you do is you shoot it right in the engine deck and it pens every time. I like the 263, but it's definitely not a tank you would want to bring out in tournaments, or a vehicle that I would put as the most workable of situations. So yeah, it's good, but we're going to put it in workable. It's not the best, not the worst, but I also wouldn't say don't bother, because it is a really fun tank to run. 268. This one goes into super duper strong. It's pretty much the all-rounder for tank destroyers. It's got good mobility, goes 50 kilometers per hour. It's got a great power to weight ratio. It's got good gun depression, 7 degrees if I'm not mistaken. Fantastic accuracy, 0.317. It's got good DPM, just about 3,000 DPM. It's fantastic alpha, 640, and it's got good armor. It's based off of an IS-8 hull with a little bit added on protection. So that makes the Object 268 just a fantastic tier 10 vehicle. Why I absolutely, I don't really love it that much. I was going to say why I absolutely love it, but I don't run it too much just because I find it good at everything. That's something I always like, is a unique vehicle. But Object 268 is a great beginner vehicle and a great vehicle, honestly, for any good player in the game. So 268 going up there in super strong. Didn't mean to do that. So now we're going to move on to the Progetto 65. Now this one is a little bit tricky. I'm going to put it into super strong. I was thinking about good performer, but the reason the Progetto is so good is, first of all, it's got such a troll upper plate. How many of you have ever tried to penetrate a Progetto? And like, you can see just how ridiculously troll the Progetto's upper plate is. How many of you have ever tried to pen it? Let's go get the Progetto here. You've ever tried to penetrate the Progetto's upper plate and it just ricochets. Now that's of course heat, but you can see AP, it's not a ricochet because AP bounces at 72 degrees. So it's a really tricky tank to pen because it actually gets a lot of bounces there. You'll also try and penetrate the turret, and sometimes it just won't pen. You'll hit a really wonky spot like that. It's a really troll tank to penetrate. Not only that, it carries an auto-reloading gun with about 2,500 DPM, not the most DPM, but the ability to clip a tier 10 medium for 1,050 hit points and then load in another shell. You've actually got really, really crazy DPM. The ability to clip somebody, in my opinion, and then reload each shell singularly stops people from pushing on you. It makes people kind of worried that, if they've got less than 1,000 hit points, you can literally one-clip them. Good mobility, 56 kilometers per hour top speed, I'm pretty sure. It's honestly just a really good tank. The issue with it is that it doesn't have the best accuracy, and it's also got a very bad power to weight ratio, but at the same time, super strong. And that's why I put it in that category, is because any good player can do a very good amount in it, and even a player that's not the best can still be a very big threat, because you don't want somebody clipping off 1,050 hit points. So let's move on to the Sheridan. Now this vehicle, I'm gonna put in broken. I honestly think it's broken. The Sheridan, after they nerfed the missiles, any good player in this tank can literally dominate a battlefield. And a lot of the people that were kind of worried that when the missiles were going to be removed, that, a lot of people that like spamming missiles, they honestly thought that the Sheridan wasn't going to be good. But now after talking to them, they honestly think it's better. And the reason for that being is because it kept the spaced armor, kept the mobility, 56, it went like 65 kilometers per hour. It's got spaced armor, it's got mobility, it's got great alpha, 560. And now the issue with missiles was that you kind of had to lob them over. It took a while. Now you just snap a shell into an E100's turret and you back up. No issue whatsoever. You beat it on the aiming time and stuff, because, most accurate 150 millimeter on aiming time doesn't make sense wargaming, but that's sometimes what they need to do. I honestly think they're going to nerf it again, but I don't know, because I think they're kind of scared to nerf it because of other people running it. But currently the Sheridan is one of the strongest performing tanks at tier 10. For me personally, I do ridiculous in it. The other day I played it, went like 90% for 25 games. It's such a ridiculous vehicle. And it still is super strong because it's a light tank with non-HEable armor. So you can't HE it, and not to mention, it's just ridiculous. So let me know what you guys think personally about the Sheridan in the comments down below. If you like it, you think it's super broken, but it's in the cusps of super strong and broken. But I think broken is in the category of it needs a nerf. That's how I kind of do it. The Ho-Re needs a pen nerf, in my opinion, just a little bit. And the Sheridan needs a nerf on, I honestly don't know what, maybe nerf the heat pen just a little bit so it can't penetrate maybe the front of like an E100. You have to flank with it, or nerf the accuracy. I don't care. Just something on it that makes it a little bit less ridiculous. But that's kind of how I rate the tanks, as if they need a nerf, they're in the broken category. Super strong is, they're good on the cusps of being, needing a nerf, but they don't need the nerf. Here's another one that's very, very good. Super strong is the STB1. This is the strongest performing tier 10 medium currently, apart from the T22 medium, which is quite impressive. That's the strongest performing tech tree medium. The reason for that being is the hull down capabilities are amazing. It's got great hull down capabilities, super strong armor. The sides are non-HEable. It's got a great gun, good dispersion, decent top speed of 53 kilometers per hour, good power to weight ratio. The STB is just such a good all-rounder that it's got to go into super strong. It's kind of like the Patton, but it's so good at hull down that you're just scared of it. Like, you can't penetrate those things hull down. And they're even used in tournament to this day because they've also got some of the best view range in the game. So pretty dang strong vehicle. Another one I'll put into super strong is, you know what? No, we're going to put this in good performer. I would put the Super Conk in super strong, but the reason I'm going to put it in good performer is because it has a lot of weaknesses. The biggest issue with the Super Conk is the side armor. Very, very large tank. And when you'll see, if you pull up the armor of it, it's good. It's actually fantastic all down. And that makes it a very good tank. But the big sides just rip it to pieces. So, you know, this is a Super Conk. Very good hull down. In fact, if you're hull down, it's one of the strongest tanks in the game. But it's such a big tank. And these massive sides here make it very easy to rip apart, which is why I put it in a good performer. It's got a good gun, but at the same time, the gun's accuracy, bad. Not the best DPM. It's not bad DPM. It's like 2800 if you're running rammer, which isn't too bad. But the dispersion of like 0.362, the same as an IS-7 for a 120 millimeter, yeah, no thanks. So Super Conk, very good tank, but not in the super strong, at least for me personally. I do love that Hesh, though. I will say that. T22 medium, we're going to put that in super duper strong. Now, the reason I put it in super strong is because it would have been broken 2 years ago, 3 years ago, would have been broken, no doubt. But nowadays, a lot of people know how to penetrate the T22 medium. The gun is by far the worst of the Russian mediums, the least accurate, the worst shell velocity, and as well, it's just it's good, it's great, don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of boring to run after a while. A lot of people don't really like it. So the T22 is very troll. It's got great hull down capabilities. It's got a ridiculous armor profile, good DPM, but I don't put it in broken anymore. Super duper strong tank. Same for the T110E3, super strong. Unlike the Grille, unlike the Object 263, unlike the 4005 that all carry that big issue of being very inflexible, the T110E3 has the ability to stay hull down. Not only does it have the ability to stay hull down, it also has good DPM. It's got fantastic hull armor, and that little boob at the top, a lot of people think they can pen. You really can't. The E3 has got speed boost, making it very flexible if it's being pushed on. Honestly, E3 is one of the best tier 10s currently to get your hands on. Definitely a very, very good tank. Up next, we have the T110E4. I put the E4 in workable. I wouldn't say don't bother because it's not a bad tank. It's workable. You can do very well in it. In fact, some of my highest damage games are in the E4 because people don't target it. They don't think much of it. It's got decent armor, but they need to buff something on it. Either remove the cupola on the roof, buff the DPM a little bit. It's just currently, it's a very average tank, I would kind of put it at. Not average because I think it's workable. It's got a couple issues, but it can get out good games, which is what I put the workable area in, but it also is kind of team reliant. It's not the most mobile. It's just kind of a worse E100 if you think about it. Next up, E5. This one, super strong. E5 has got great hull down capabilities. It's got reactive armor, which if you're running reactive and you're running sandbag armor, you literally have the same effective hit points for that 15 seconds as a mouse. Yeah, pretty dang crazy. Not only is it got that fantastic heat pen at that ridiculously broken 374 the IS-4 has, very accurate gun, 0.317 dispersion, decent damage per minute at 2800 if you're running rammer. E5 is just the jack of all trades, and because of that, it's such a strong tank. And honestly, that's the same what I put the Kronwagen in. As you saw earlier when I showed the Kronwagen's armor profile, it's impenetrable hull down apart from a Ho-Ri. And judging that, the Ho-Ri is one of the least played tier 10 tank destroyers in the game, and tanks in general, not a lot of people are going to be going up against you in the Ho-Ri. So pretty much in a Kron, you're able to dominate ridge lines. The IS-4 is great for dominating hull down areas as well, but it doesn't have as good of an idea. Kronwagen's got worse DPM, but the ability to clip somebody for 1200 or pen through them like butter a mouse's upper plate with heat. There's a reason why it's a very, very prominent tournament tank now in EU, RU, Asia, and as well NA. Shows you that it's a very, very good tank. Super strong in my personal opinion. Next up, 57 Heavy. This is a tank I put in the broken category. And the reason I think that this thing needs a nerf is because of it just being a damage farming tank. The thing about the 57 I pined, and of course this is one that is kind of iffy on the community because it performs decent. It's not the best. It performs honestly average. It's like a 53, 54% average win rate, not the highest, which is surprising to me. But the reason that I put it in broken is because it has the ability to literally clip out in any tank in 5 seconds. Literally 1,200 hit points in 5 seconds. It's got the most accurate tier 10 heavy gun, pretty much. It's got ridiculous DPM 3000, and the armor is really, really troll. The thing I wish that was nerfed on the T57 Heavy is, honestly, that they put the interclip back up to 3. I think that that would make the tank pretty good, but it wouldn't make it so cracked in the ability to clip people's tracks. Like, you'll see when I make videos on the 57 Heavy, even though I'll lose, it just farms damage like crazy. And I wish that it just wasn't such a ridiculous tank to go up against. Let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments about that. I put it in broken, but it as well. It's in the cusps of super strong and broken, and that's kind of how I put all the vehicles. Honestly, I don't know if broken's really a category needed for the tier 10s, because Wargaming does a pretty good job balancing them. There's just a couple, I think, that need reworking. One that is very good, though, is the T62A. This tank, fantastic. Not only does it have the ability to work super good hull down, it's got good hull armor, it's got fantastic DPM. As I said before, just makes the 140 obsolete, and that's why I have the 140 in Don't Bother. A very, very good tank. Love it for certain areas. I think it's quite boring, though, after a while, kind of like the T22 medium. It's got low alpha, high DPM, but if you're into that kind of playstyle, a very good performer and a fantastic vehicle to grind, especially if you like your mobile mediums. T95 E6. This is a tank I put into average because it is workable, but it can also sway the tides of a battle quite well. It's got good hull down capabilities. In fact, if you take a look at it hull down, it does have one blaring weak spot, and that is the boob on the top of it. Very, very easy to penetrate. You'll see it here. Yeah, not the best. It is quite thick, and in fact, a lot of troll spots on it, but overall, yeah, it's easy to pen. You can easily get through it. But hull down, upper plate, very, very tricky as well. Over here, you can see very good hull down capabilities. So if you wiggle that little thing at the top, you can get a lot of troll bounces on it. I've bounced it a couple times. In fact, even when you think you have a pen on it, it'll just bounce sometimes. So the E6 can be very good hull down. It's got good DPM, decent accuracy, that fantastic 374 heat pen. E6, good tank, very, very good, but I find it on average because for the average player especially, it's just an average vehicle. It's nothing special, but it usually comes out for quite a cheap price tag. Vickers Light goes into super strong. The reason for this being great hull down. This is something that I don't understand. Wargaming, why won't you do this? Now, I honestly would put it in the broken because it definitely needs a nerf, in my opinion, on the hull. But at the same time, I don't think that it's too much of a threat anymore. It's just kind of a medium with ridiculous camo and spotting range. Yeah, doesn't make sense. But if we go find our Vickers Light, which is in the UK, Vickers Light, what makes it so good? Well, first of all, you know, we're looking at here a T10 E5, but that's a T10 E5 aiming at a light tank. A light tank, everybody. A light tank with 275 millimeters of armor if it's using 10 degrees of gun depression. Why that makes sense, I don't know. The mantlet, as you can see, still very tricky. You can't penetrate it with heat most of the time because, as we all know, heat has a very tricky time at penetrating through spaced armor because it dissipates very, very quickly. So, yeah, the Vickers Light is able to bounce shells as a light tank against heavies. Doesn't make sense at all. The turret, though, it is quite weak if you know how to penetrate it, but still, I don't understand why this isn't overmatchable. It's, yeah, 50 millimeters. It's just really weird to me why the Vickers Light has got such ridiculous armor. I call it the medium with light tank camo and spotting range, which kind of makes it OP in certain scenarios, but because it's not the best accuracy, because it has a couple issues, I put it in super strong currently, but definitely it's on the cusp of being broken. What do we have next? We got the VK72. I put this one on, we'll do average. I don't think it's great, but compared to the E100, there's really... the E100's just got the ability to not only work the same positions as the VK72, it also has the hit points. It's got a lot more tricky armor on the sides. One of the biggest issues I personally have with the VK72 is Hesh vehicles. Let's say like the FE4202, Sen 7-1, the 183 is a good example. What happens when you have the side of a 183 aiming at your E100? Well, if you're aiming your turret at it, you actually can't get pens because the side of the E100 is all spaced. VK72, not that much of an issue, and you'll as well see that the VK72 is just, it's a big punching bag, honestly. That's the big issue, is that its armor isn't the best. You'll see here, we take a look. So yeah, it's quite good until you realize, oh wait, heat exists. So this is the VK72 with heat. First of all, you can pen the cheeks, not very thick, 220 millimeters on both sides. So if it's turning its turret just like the Tier 8 Larva, very easy to pen. The lower plate, it's thick, but at the same time, even if you're angling it this far, still an easy pen with heat from an E5. The sides of the tank, very easy pen. So yeah, the VK, it's a good tank. Don't get me wrong, big alpha. It's got awful DPM. That's I was gonna say DPM, but no, it's bad DPM. So it's workable, but I put it in average just because it can do the job, but as well it struggles in a lot of scenarios. So what do we have next? We got the VK90. VK90 super strong. No, going in the broken. The reason the VK90 is broken is okay. We just talked about the VK72. Now imagine a tank that was like the VK72, but it had none of the issues. Well, boy, do I got that for you. This is the VK90. Even with heat, you can see still very hard to penetrate. In fact, ridiculously hard. It's got 10 degrees of gun depression over the sides because, yeah, why not? So if an IS-4 is face-hugging you, what you do is you wait for him to bounce, and then you just turn your tank to the side and do this and pen him right on the side. So ridiculous side armor. How many of you have ever tried to pen the side of a VK90 and just ricochet it off because you'll think it's a pen? Like, this will look like a pen, but then it'll just ricochet. Ridiculous side armor. Not only does it have ridiculous side armor, fantastic pen. The 5 shooting AP, it's just ridiculous. The turret cheeks, 305 millimeters. Like, what? The cupola, 300 millimeters. Again, what? 450 on the roof. VK90 is an absolute powerhouse of a vehicle, and if you're angling it correctly, you can get good gun depression out. Ridiculous upper plate armor. The VK90, in my opinion, definitely needs maybe a little bit of a side armor nerf. I'm not sure really what it needs, but it's definitely too strong in my personal opinion currently. If I really wanted to break into it, I'd make a whole video on it being way too strong, but yeah, a lot of people that own this tank, it's used in tournament now, very, very strong, and I honestly put it in the broken category because it definitely, I think honestly the biggest thing that it needs a nerf on is just the side armor. Just nerf it by like 10, 20 millimeters. Nothing massive, just enough so that it really can't dominate on side scraping. That way, it can be overmatched if people are over, if you over angle it, kind of just like a mouse, because it makes the mouse obsolete. I'm honestly using the mouse in tournament strats more than the VK90, and the sad part is it outperforms it. So yeah, that's kind of how I do it. Up next, we have my mighty 5A. The 5A I would put into average. It's honestly an average tank. It's got good hull down capabilities. It's got decent DPM, decent AP penetration, but the heat struggles. It's got bad armor. So I put it in average because it can do kind of the same things as an IS-7, but, it's definitely very easy to take out. So that's kind of how I rate the WZ-111 5A. We've got the WZ-113, which will go into super strong. Not only does it have ridiculous damage per minute, 3,440 if you're running rammer, but if you're running calibrated, you've got ridiculous heat pen, 367. That's kind of the same as the IS-4, cuts through all frontal armor, even a mouse's upper plate. It's quick, goes 50 kilometers per hour, pretty good upper plate armor, pretty good turret armor. The WZ-113 is a powerhouse of a vehicle, and I can definitely tell you, if you don't have it, a fantastic grind. It's just such a strong tier 10 heavy tank. I've made a couple videos on it now saying just how strong it really is. There's no games where I don't really do 3,000 in it unless you use a really bad mobility. That's the one issue, is the mobility, not the top speed, but just the turning speed on it. As I always say, if there was an iceberg in front of it and it was the Titanic, it would have crashed just like the Titanic. WZ-121. This vehicle goes into super strong. Fantastic vehicle as well. It's pretty much just a more mobile version of the WZ-113. It carries the same DPM, same alpha damage, pretty good armor. Actually, the turret I would rate just as well. And the aiming time on the 121 is 2.2 seconds, which is cracked. I made a video on the 121 this morning. I absolutely love the tank. I would put it, honestly, as one of the strongest tier 10 mediums. I rate it higher than the 62A just because of the alpha and the DPM, everything combined. The stupid hull armor, ridiculously strong tank. So, yeah, that's why I'm rating the 121 up in super strong. And the final one we have is the WZ-113 GFT, which we're going to put in workable. It's, you know what? Honestly, we're going to put in, it's such a tricky one to put. We're going to do in average, because here's the thing about the WZ-113. I think it's a good tank. It's actually a very good performer, and I would put it in the good performer area, but when you compare it to a vehicle like the Object 268, there really isn't a reason to go for the tank when you've got the 268 available. The 268's quicker. It's got a little bit more accurate gun. You don't need reticle calibration. The 268's got very troll armor. Not as reliable as the WZ. I would say the WZ's is just flat out reliable, but at the same time, it's a lot larger than the 268, which means easy hesh on the side. Yeah, it's good, but not necessarily the best tier 10 vehicle. So this is my ranking for tier 10 vehicles in Blitz. I'm going to move the Tune 5e up to good performer. I think it is a good performer. I don't think it's average because you can do very well in it. The gun's really good, but it's on the cusps of average and good performer. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Anybody that's arguing in the comments about me having the Tune 5e an average, ooh, they're going to feel a little bit ashamed that I moved it up to good performer. But hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you disagree and agree with in the comments down below. Of course, this is an opinionated video, and you guys all have your personal opinions as well, but hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. But other than that, hopefully all of you are doing well out there. Stay happy, stay healthy, and to be seeing you in the next one. Also, thank you for sticking around for a, how long was this video? Almost 44 minute video. So hopefully you enjoyed it, but I'll be seeing you in the next one.